This is the story of 8 young men who were told their music was too loud, too messy, and too different for K-pop, and how they used that criticism to completely change the industry. Stray Kids didn't just become successful, they redefined what it means to be a K-pop idol, proving that honesty and chaos could be just as powerful as perfection. We're covering the complete story of Stray Kids today, from a survival show that almost eliminated half the group, to becoming the first JYP entertainment act to sell over 1 million albums, to topping the Billboard 200 not once but twice. You'll see how a 7-year trainee from Australia assembled a team that would challenge everything K-pop stood for, and why their journey matters for the future of the entire industry. Most K-pop groups follow a formula. Companies select the members, decide the concept, and hand them music made by professional producers. Stray Kids started differently. A 13-year-old named Christopher Chan Bang walked into JYP Entertainment's Australia auditions in 2010 with experience in modern dance and ballet, and his main goal was simple. He loved giving other people a good time. He passed the audition and moved to South Korea on April 11th, 2011, leaving his home in Sydney to chase a dream without knowing his training period would last 7 years. 7 years of watching his friends debut in groups like GOT7, Twice, and Day 6. 7 years of wondering if his turn would ever come, and he's spoken about how lonely he got during this time while watching people move forward as he stayed behind. Those years weren't wasted though, because Bang Chan enrolled in MIDI classes to learn about music production, the technical side of connecting instruments, computers and audio equipment. And with these skills, he started making his own music on his MacBook. Late 2016 brought Bang Chan together with 2 other trainees who were just as passionate about creating music. Seo Changbin, who had been training for about 2 years, was known for his rapid-fire rap skills, while Hyunjin had promised his parents he'd get signed to a K-pop agency within 1 year, or return to Malaysia. And with barely any time to spare, JYP accepted him. Together they formed a hip-hop unit called 3RACHA, with each member using a stage name. Bang Chan was CB97, incorporating his initials and birth year 1997. Changbin was Spear B, and Han was J1. February 1st, 2017 marked their first track release, Intro, on SoundCloud and YouTube. And throughout that year they kept releasing music, 1 original song and 1 cover roughly every 2 weeks. They weren't waiting for permission because they were already creating, which was unusual since most trainees just trained. But 3RACHA was building something. October 11th, 2017 brought an announcement from JYP Entertainment about a new survival show called Stray Kids. But unlike previous survival shows where the public voted on which trainees would debut, this one was different. Bang Chan had selected 9 members himself. They would work together as a team, and the question wasn't who would debut but whether all 9 of them would make it. The show premiered on October 17, 2017, with a lineup that included Bang Chan, Changbin and Han from 3RACHA, plus Lee Minho, a backup dancer who had performed with BTS on their Japan tour. Hwang Hyunjin had been scouted by a JYP recruiter while shopping with his mother. Felix Lee was another Australian with a remarkably deep voice who had trained in Taekwondo for 12 years and earned 63 medals. And Kim Woojin had previously trained at SM Entertainment. Kim Seungmin had placed second at JYP's 13th open audition and never missed a single day of training, while young Jongin, the youngest, had worked as a child model and performed Korean trot music. Before the show officially started, they released a music video on October 6th for a song called Hellavada, which Bang Chan wrote, and it debuted at number 2 on the Circle chart in November 2017. They had momentum, but the survival show was harder than anyone expected. Episode 1 brought a live performance of Hellavada for Park Jin Young, the founder of JYP Entertainment, known simply as JYP, and he immediately criticised the youngest member, Jongin. Bang Chan had accidentally written the song too high for the average male singer, which meant Jongin struggled with it. and JYP said his part sounded amateurish and unstable. He placed Jongin at risk of elimination along with 2 other members, then told them to split into 3 groups of 3. Jongin was paired with Woojin and Han, 2 strong vocalists who spent the next week coaching him, and they performed School Life in episode 4. Bang Chan watched their rehearsal and told them JYP should be impressed, but when they performed, JYP still felt Jongin wasn't ready and also criticised his dancing, saying it felt short and held back. The criticism kept coming, and in episode 4, Lee Min-ho made a mistake during his rap performance, since he had no prior experience as a rapper and was still learning Korean after only 2 months of training. JYP decided Minho needed to continue training separately from Stray Kids, which meant he was eliminated, and this devastated Changbin, who had worked with Minho on their unit song Glow. Changbin felt responsible as the team leader, believing he had failed to support his friend enough. Then episode 8 brought another blow when Felix made a mistake during their live busking performance. He was supposed to balance on Woojin and Han for a choreography move, but couldn't hold it long enough. JYP sent 2 scouts to judge the performance, and afterward he told Felix he should continue training separately, which meant Felix was eliminated too, and Bang Chan had promised Felix, his fellow Australian, that he would never leave him behind. Now both Felix and Minho were gone. But then something unexpected happened in episode 9 when JYP told the remaining 7 members that the group didn't have the same spark and energy anymore. He felt they clicked better as 9, so he gave Minho and Felix another chance, and the 10th episode aired live on December 19th, 2017. With both the 9-member group and the 7-member group performing. Then JYP left the decision up to the viewers, and 96% voted in favour of all 9 members debuting together, while only 4% voted against it. Minho and Felix were back, which meant all 9 members would debut as Stray Kids. March 25th, 2018 brought Stray Kids' official debut at Jamsil Arena, and the next day they released their first EP, I Am Not, with Bang Chan credited for helping write every song on the album and producing 3 of them. But their debut was risky since 2018 saw most K-pop groups releasing bright, cheerful songs with EDM mixed in, while debuts usually leaned on safe, upbeat tracks that felt polished and easy to listen to. Twice, JYP's biggest success at the time was thriving with songs like What Is Love that leaned into sweetness and vocal-driven hooks. And groups like ADDICTIVE were debuting with high-energy, danceable tracks but still sticking to a clean vocal sound. Stray Kids came out with District 9 and it was aggressive. The tone was angsty, confrontational and messy, clashing against the glittery, optimistic vibe people expected from new groups. The lyrics were unusual too, with Bang Chan rapping, "Honestly, I don't know who I am. It's frustrating. It always worries me." This kind of self-analysis was practically unheard of for a title track at the time, since debut songs were designed to project confidence. But Stray Kids didn't do that. They came out with doubts and insecurities and put those feelings front and center, which was different from anything else happening in K-pop. In the introduction video for I Am Not, Bang Chan talked about their different sound, calling it their weapon, and he said, "It's full of honesty and is music that can break any system, so we will break it with honesty." But then he paused and asked his staff, "Can I say that?" That question revealed a lot, because for many groups the answer would be no. They weren't allowed to provide honesty about their music, let alone themselves, and they weren't allowed to be human. The first album included an intro song that captured this feeling perfectly when they sang about how people expect perfection. So how can we be perfect? By just being honest in their songs, they became something new and went astray from the system and the expectations people had for K-pop. Not everyone appreciated it, of course, and their debut was met with confusion since some people didn't understand why they would choose such an aggressive sound. But Stray Kids kept going, and on March 25th, 2019, exactly 1 year after their debut, they released Clay One Miro. The title track Miro became their first song to win first place on a music program on April 14th, 2019. but it also got people talking for another reason. The song was loaded with sound effects, police sirens, car horns, eagle screeches and more. And while they all suited the theme of the song, critics were quick to label it. They called Stray Kids noise music, saying the songs were too loud, too obnoxious, too messy. Instead of changing their approach, Stray Kids doubled down and released Side Effects, which featured an overwhelming robotic voice in the chorus, while the actual members took a backseat to the instrumentation. Listeners still felt that Stray Kids was nothing more than noise music, but the group didn't care because they knew what they were doing. As Bang Chan had said, their music, especially their honesty, was their weapon, and that weapon was breaking the system like he predicted. The people who understood their approach best would be the ones who followed them, and international fans in particular gravitated toward the raw energy. Even if you didn't understand Korean, you could feel the emotion and urgency in their delivery. Then came 2020, and Changbin had just written a new song that all the members loved and thought would be perfect for their upcoming album. There was just one problem. They were way past the deadline for deciding the final title track, but they took it straight to JYP Entertainment anyway. The company agreed to change the title track, and that bold call completely altered the course of the group. The song was called God's Menu, released on June 17, 2020, as part of their first full-length album, Go Live. The music video reached 66 million views within just 28 days, which was 16 million more than their previous title track, Levante, had accumulated in almost 5 years. And today, God's Menu stands as Stray Kids' most watched music video with over 480 million views. The song was everything critics said Stray Kids shouldn't be. It was noisy, it was chaotic, it was addictive. Felix's deep voice was featured prominently in the second verse and the bridge, and his part became iconic, with new listeners often referring to him as the guy that sings that one part. Even people who didn't know K-pop had heard Felix's voice, which showed how far their sound was reaching beyond their existing fan base. God's Menu marked a turning point where Stray Kids took the criticism and made it their full identity. Other groups saw the success Stray Kids were having and began adapting similar sounds into their own music, and what people once considered poorly made had become something people craved. As they refined their music, they began referring to it as their mala sound. And if you've ever had mala hot pot, you know it's not a comfortable meal. It's numbing, fiery and overwhelming, but you keep going back for more, which is exactly the effect Stray Kids wanted their music to have. This mala sound had clear characteristics: loud percussive production pulling from trap, EDM and even rock, with sudden beat switches and constant energy shifts that kept you listening. On paper it looked messy, but Stray Kids turned that chaos into their signature flavour, and the album Go Live sold 70,000 more copies in its first month than their previous album. The numbers proved it. Aggressive, rap-heavy production could dominate charts. October 27, 2019 brought an announcement from JYP Entertainment that Kim Woojin would be leaving Stray Kids due to personal reasons. He was one of their main vocalists, and his departure left a gap that the remaining members had to fill, which they did on March 18th, 2020, when Stray Kids released SKZ 2020, an album featuring re-recorded versions of their past songs. Bang Chan took the majority of Woojin's lines, stepping up vocally despite his primary role as a rapper and producer, while Lee No also took on singing parts, showcasing his vocal development. The group didn't slow down, and if anything, they worked harder to prove they could continue as 8. In 2021, Stray Kids participated in Mnet's reality TV series Kingdom Legendary War, where 6 boy groups competed to be named the Kings of K-pop. One of their most memorable performances was a remix of God's Menu and Blackpink's Do 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 Do, and Felix opened the performance dressed as Deadpool. Initially, JYP Entertainment declined the request to use Deadpool's likeness, but Bang Chan insisted, feeling the character resonated with the group's identity, and eventually JYP approved it. The performance caught the attention of Ryan Reynolds, who plays Deadpool in the films, and he noticed Stray Kids on Twitter and began interacting with the group. Bang Chan and Reynolds exchanged gifts. Bang Chan sent a signed copy of their album In Life, and Reynolds sent a signed bottle of his aviation gin. And on August 13th, 2021, Bang Chan interviewed Ryan Reynolds for the film Free Guy on the 20th Century Fox YouTube channel. 3 years later, on July 19th, 2024, Bang Chan and Felix interviewed Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman for the Marvel Korea YouTube channel to promote Deadpool and Wolverine with Stray Kids' song Slash, featured in the film's soundtrack. What started as a creative choice on Kingdom had turned into a full circle moment with one of Hollywood's biggest stars. But Kingdom provided another moment too, because in episode 7, the 6 competing groups were told to form unit teams, and Seungmin was selected for Mayfly's vocal unit alongside BTOB's Yeonkwang and ITZY's Jongho. Seungmin suggested performing a cover of soloist IU's song Love Poem, and when they performed it in episode 8, all 33 judges voted in favour of Mayfly's vocal unit. IU herself praised the performance and recommended people watch it, which validated Seungmin's growth as a vocalist and his ability to capture the essence of the original song, one of his dreams with covers. August 23rd, 2021 brought the release of Stray Kids' second full-length album, Nosy, which sold 1.1 million copies in its first month, making it the first JYP Entertainment album ever to surpass 1 million copies. This was massive since JYP had been one of the big 3 K-pop companies for years, but none of their acts had achieved this milestone. Just 5 months after Stray Kids debuted in 2018, JYP Entertainment surpassed SM and YG to become the largest of the big 3, reaching a market capitalization of $980.26 million, and Stray Kids played a role in that growth. March 18th, 2022 brought Oddinary, which became their first album to top the Billboard 200, making them the 3rd K-pop group to achieve this after BTS and Super M. Then came October 7th, 2022 with Maxident, an album that sold 2 million copies in just 6 days, making it the 2nd fastest album to reach that milestone in Hanteo history. Maxident topped the Billboard 200 again, making Stray Kids the 4th Korean and non-English language album to achieve this, and they became the first group to have 2 consecutive #1 albums in the US. By the time their 3rd full-length album, 5 Star, was released on June 2nd, 2023, Stray Kids had sold over 10 million albums worldwide. In 2023, Time magazine recognised Backdoor as one of the 10 best songs of 2020. They won the Daesang for Performance of the Year at the 2021 Asia Artist Awards, and on December 14th, 2023, Bang Chan, Changbin and Han, 3RACHA, won the Best Creator Award at the Asian Artist Awards, cementing their status as leading figures in K-pop production. What made Stray Kids different wasn't just their sound, but who was creating it. Bang Chan has over 190 songwriting credits. Changbin has 164 and Han has 163. And on February 3rd, 2023, Han became the youngest K-pop idol to be promoted to a regular member of Korea's Music Copyright Association. Bang Chan and Changbin were also promoted to regular members in 2023, which put them in exclusive company. To put this in perspective, Bang Chan ranks as the 3rd most prolific K-pop idol in terms of songwriting credits, with only BTS's RM, who has 228 songs, having more among active idols. G-Dragon was the first K-pop musician to be promoted to a regular Comke member back in 2011, and the list now includes other self-producing artists like Suga, J-Hope and 17's Woojin. 3RECHA also produced Paradise for the Japanese girl group Niziu, which became the first song they produced to reach #1 on the Billboard Japan Hot 100 in 2023, showing their influence extended beyond Stray Kids. Before Stray Kids, it was enough for idols to perfect choreography and deliver vocals, with songwriting being extra but not expected. Stray Kids flipped that by showing that authenticity could be just as valuable as perfection, and that idols taking ownership of their music could define an entire generation. Other groups began experimenting with self-production, and suddenly it wasn't enough to just perform perfectly. Audiences wanted to know, did you write this? Does this come from you? Stray Kids didn't just succeed inside the system, they shattered it. Stray Kids is considered one of the first groups of K-pop's fourth generation, but generations in K-pop aren't set year periods. They're defined by noticeable changes in the industry. First generation K-pop was aimed mostly at domestic audiences in Korea, but as platforms like YouTube and Facebook emerged, international fans started discovering the music, which shifted and defined second generation. By third generation, the global audience was being directly catered to, with groups built with international fans in mind and massive fan armies beginning to dominate the industry. Then came fourth generation, where the sound of K-pop itself shifted, becoming louder, more intense and more hyped up than ever before. With each change there was pushback from current fans, and with Stray Kids being one of the groups to begin fourth generation, they faced critics who thought they knew what was right and wrong for K-pop. But Stray Kids proved that honest music could connect with people globally, and they proved that chaos, when done with intent, could be just as impactful as perfection. As the group grew, so did the individual members, and their personal journeys became part of the story. Lee No, who was eliminated in episode 4 of the survival show because JYP felt his singing wasn't ready, became one of Stray Kids' most reliable vocalists. His first solo song, Limbo, released in December 2022, has become one of the most played songs from the SKZ Player series, amassing over 30 million streams on Spotify, and he showcased his vocal abilities on the Woojin service show and released a cover of Day 6's Love or Leave Me in 2024. On February 29th, 2024, Lee No donated 100 million Korean won to World Vision's Global Hunger Crisis Response Project. Changbin, known for his rapid-fire rapping and dark aesthetic, revealed a more vulnerable side with his solo song Streetlight, released on May 16, 2020. In the description he wrote about comparing himself to a streetlight, someone who suffers emotional pain on his own without telling anyone, who smiles and pretends things are okay. And he explained that before writing the song, he struggled alone and wasn't able to tell anyone. But by writing those feelings into lyrics, he felt like he had shared them, which gave him a sense of relief, and the song marked his readiness to let go of those beliefs and become more emotionally open. Han, the all-rounder who can rap, sing and produce, has released multiple solo tracks exploring themes of longing and emptiness. His song Alien, released on January 31st, 2021, opens with quotes from Pixar's Ratatouille and Disney's Zootopia, motivational messages he delivers to himself. And when you adjust the pitch, you can hear it's Han's own voice telling himself to keep going. His duet with Lee No, Want So Bad, released on October 15th, 2023, showcased his singing abilities, and Han also appeared on the Woojin service show on October 11th, 2022, where he shared that his father used to be in a rock band, which sparked his interest in rock and related genres. Felix became a global fashion icon when Louis Vuitton named him as a house ambassador on August 22nd, 2023. On March 5th, 2024, he made his runway debut at Louis Vuitton's Paris Fashion Week Women's Fall-Winter Show, which was a rare milestone since K-pop idols appearing on runways are incredibly uncommon. In January 2024, Felix donated 150 million won to UNICEF and World Vision, and travelled to Laos to personally help serve children suffering from poor sanitation and nutrition, with UNICEF documenting his trip in 3 episodes on their Korean YouTube channel. Hyunjin became Versace's global brand ambassador on July 20th, 2023, and Cartier's brand ambassador on September 12th, 2024. Donatella Versace personally designed a custom outfit for Hyunjin to wear during Stray Kids' Dominate World Tour, and called him the Prince of Versace on March 19th, 2024. and he's been featured on covers for Esquire Korea, W Korea, and Harper's Bazaar. Plus, he's walked in multiple Versace fashion shows. Seungmin developed a YouTube series called Songbin, where he covers songs that are meaningful to him and explains their connection, starting the series on April 28th, 2024, with a cover of IU's Love Poem, the same song he performed on Kingdom. He's released multiple original OST tracks, including Here Always for the drama Hometown Cha 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 and Close to You for Loving Contract. And on May 8th, 2023, he was invited to throw the first pitch for the LG Giants baseball team, reconnecting with his childhood love of baseball. IN, the youngest member, who was constantly at risk of elimination during the survival show, became a confident vocalist and fashion figure. On June 7th, 2024, he donated 100 million Korean won to Child Fund Korea, becoming the youngest member of the Green Noble Donors Club at just 23 years old, and he's attended multiple Alexander McQueen and Bottega Veneta fashion shows. Plus, he was featured on the cover of Vogue Korea in 2024. His solo song Hallucination, originally written by Changbin but reworked by IN with his own melodies and lyrics, was released on December 13th, 2024 as part of Stray Kids' Hop EP. Stray Kids' success led to a partnership with Republic Records, a well-known US label with a reputation for treating artists fairly and a roster that includes Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Nicki Minaj, Drake, and Post Malone. JYP Entertainment signed twice ITZY and Stray Kids to Republic Records, marking a moment for K-pop's expansion in the US market. This joint venture signified that the US was growing its acceptance of the genre and that JYP's vision of K-pop becoming a global phenomenon was finally becoming reality. September 8th, 2023 brought Stray Kids to the VMAs in the United States, where they performed and won the award for Best K-pop Music Video. Over 3.5 million viewers tuned into the show, providing international exposure that helped grow their audience even further. They were announced as the first Korean act to headline Lollapalooza in France, further proving their global reach, and Bang Chan served as MC for KCON LA in 2022 and 2023. In 2022, Day 1 drew over 90,000 attendees, while in 2023, Day 3 drew over 140,000 people. July 8th, 2024 brought Bang Chan and Felix as hosts for Apple Music's radio show All About Stray Kids, where they brought on their fellow members to discuss their past and the music they grew up on. The Dominate World Tour began on August 24th, 2024 in Seoul, South Korea. When you look back at Stray Kids' journey, what stands out isn't just the numbers but what they represent. They started as 9 trainees who were told they might not be good enough, with 2 of them eliminated during their own survival show. Their debut sound was criticised as too aggressive, too messy, too different, and they were labelled noise music as an insult. But they never changed who they were. They took that criticism and made it their identity, writing songs about not knowing who they are, about feeling like they don't fit in, about struggling with anxiety and pressure, and they performed with honesty instead of perfection. And in doing so, they changed what K-pop could be. Bang Chan trained for 7 years before debut, longer than most idols ever train. But those 7 years taught him not just how to perform, but how to create, how to lead, and how to recognize talent in others. When he selected the 8 members who would join him, he wasn't looking for the most polished performers, but for people who had something real to say. 3RACHA spent years releasing music on SoundCloud before they ever debuted, building their skills and their sound, so when Stray Kids finally launched, they weren't rookies fumbling with production, but experienced creators ready to take control. Lee No went from being eliminated for lacking vocal skills to becoming one of the group's most reliable singers, and went from being told he wasn't ready to becoming a confident vocalist who writes his own songs. And Felix, eliminated for his Korean skills and a dance mistake, became a global fashion icon with Louis Vuitton. The criticism didn't break them, it built them. Today, when new K-pop groups debut, there's an expectation that they'll be involved in their music, and fans ask, did you write this? Did you produce it? Does this come from you? That expectation exists because Stray Kids proved it was possible, showing that idols could be artists and not just performers. They also proved that noise could be beautiful, that chaos could be intentional, and that being different wasn't a weakness but a strength. Stray Kids sold over 10 million albums worldwide, topped the Billboard 200 twice, and became JYP Entertainment's first million-selling act, helping the company become the largest of the big three. But their real achievement is bigger than numbers, because they changed the conversation about what K-pop could sound like and who could create it. When Bang Chan asked his staff during the I Am Not introduction, "Can I say that?" after declaring they would break the system with honesty, he was asking for permission to be real. The fact that he felt he needed to ask shows how restricting the industry was, and the fact that Stray Kids went ahead and did it anyway shows why they matter. These 8 young men took the criticism that their music was too loud, too messy and too different, and they turned it into a movement. They didn't just succeed despite the noise, they became the noise. Stray Kids proved that you don't have to fit into the system to change it, and sometimes going astray is exactly what the world needs. From a 7-year trainee assembling a team of outcasts, to 2 members being eliminated and brought back, to being called noise music as an insult, to topping the Billboard 200 and redefining what it means to be a K-pop idol, this is the story of Stray Kids. And if their journey has taught us anything, it's that honesty, chaos, and refusing to give up on who you are can be the most powerful weapons of all.